banned away from Mantarraya.
Yeah, 280 carries removed. Of course, we may start seeing more as a result of that. Zayas and Tristana are the two ADs that still stand out for me as things we may want in the first rotation. And now we start to stretch our wings out towards the rest of that bottom lane, it seems.
Yeah, well, Thresh is already once banned away, and on Chaos Latin Gamer's side, they take away a pair of junglers. It's Rek'Sai followed by the J4. I guess J4 up in the top lane, that's always another possibility. This looks like it's left the Xayah up over, and has been a fairly popular pick, so Young Generation snag it away.
Yeah, they'll lock themselves up. That Xayah, very good champion, forces almost the Rakan on the opposite side. You don't necessarily want to give that duo, and so perhaps the analyst desk's dream/nightmare immediately comes true. The Jarvan ban, as you mentioned, good flex though, and Rek'Sai taken from Venus. He is a good Rek'Sai, and that's another target ban from him specifically. Clearly
KLG doing their homework, and of course they snag a solid jungler of their own with Sejuani being picked up. Now, do we get to see the Rakan here on the next one? Or do they think maybe they can get it away?
They might go towards something like the Tristana. If they have a higher priority in another role, then things may change. I expect Rakan if they want to deny it, or I expect Tristana with an Alistar as their third pick if that's how they're going to play the 2v2. Usually that's how those duos match up.
All right, so they've got it. We'll see what ends up happening once we get down into the Rift. But back to Young Generation for the time being, and they'll probably want to snap up a jungler as well, since once they hit that second phase of bans, Venus might be looking for slim pickings.
Yeah, they played a bit more standard here. Of course, Rakan is an expectation once again as Xayah is there, but we look past that pick, and what else will go with this roster? Well, Sejuani's there, so if they really want a jungler to prevent the second ban phrase from inhibiting them even further, then they may go towards that.
Yeah, and if you want something that can do engage, that can match in the early game, of course, the Gragas is always one of those stock standards. And for YG, so you expect the Rakan here, maybe something a little different will come out. And it looks like it is. It's a Braum, so they want a little more tankiness.
Yeah, so the expectation of that duo lane is completely removed. Once again, Braum to be picked, and he doesn't know the rest of the finished team composition, essentially, of what Chaos Latin Gamers are going to put themselves together with. But I am okay with Braum. I just feel like, you know, the option of Rakan was there with the Xayah. It just empowers him so much more.
Yeah, giving up quite a lot for that to happen, and I wonder if this won't come back to bite Young Generation. We know that they're a team that loves to skirmish over and over and over again, and yeah, you're going to be able to stack a lot of CC thanks to the Braum passive, but is it going to be nearly as effective as the engages you can do on the Rakan? Now the Lulu comes in for KLG. Now we're back into ban phase 2. Nar's off the board.
And that is that big point that we have to bring it back towards. Nar is a good ban from KLG because, once again, where is the engage from the right now? Gragas has good engage. Braum can early, but it's not as reliable. There's a lot of outplay on that fact. And when you go past this, I think the reason Braum was locked in at all is just because that could have been picked by KLG to deny the Gragas engage in the first place. So they've picked themselves up this hybrid composition. Now they need to round it out.
Okay, well, Jace off the board, Talia off the board. The Galio had already been removed as well, and that's something that Plugo played pretty extensively over the course of KLG's qualifier. And now 20 seconds still on the clock. Well, Cho'Gath's been left up and available, hovered right now, and it's locked in for Mantarraya.
And they've got the Sejuani already locked in, even though Tearwolf can flex the pick, so it's going to go towards the top lane for Mantarraya. And now the team composition missing that one more member. The counter pick to be there for Plugo, but he's already being targeted.
Yes, indeed. Looks like with the Syndra, Nowell, definitely one of the star players on this Young Generation squad. And that's a very powerful pick, and might be looking to set them up for some early game plays as he locks it in.
Yeah, not just the only star player on the team, however. They've got the Syndra, they're waiting for their top laner, and that's the other person that we have to highlight as Renekton does get locked in. Ren is not Nocti. Now, when they got here in the finals, it was a 5-game series. They lost 2 games, but then the hero comes in. It didn't feel like he did a lot, he just played Galio, but he was able to get them back and help them get those victories.
Yeah, Ren more of the carry style player. In fact, it might be even short for Renekton. So he gets his namesake on that one, and now with the final lock-in, Plugo grabs himself the Orianna. They have a pretty wicked ball delivery system, though, when you look at it.
Yeah, they can, if they really want to go deep, they've got a Tristana-Orianna combo, but you've got the Cho'Gath and the Sejuani. You've got the people to stand in front. And for me, looking at KLG's complete composition, it's front-to-back strength from them. 2 big tanks, 2 big carries, scaling's quite nice. Lulu to protect all of them as well and empower them further, trying to deny any kind of backline dive from Ren in this case on the Renekton. He's going to have a pretty rough time getting to that backline if KLG play it front to back.
It seems that for Young Generation, they're going to have to rely a lot on being able to do a lot in the early game, ganking up in the top lane, letting Nowell get some early kills off of roams. Young Generation, they're not afraid to start fights when and wherever they please, but will it be enough to get them ahead in the early game? That's the question.
Yeah, and that's that interesting part. If they're ahead, they can probably stay ahead with the composition they've got for themselves. They've subscribed to the Renekton. mantra of I'm just going to win my lane, control my lane, get that CS advantage, and if a Renekton's ever ahead, usually he's going to stay there. You can commit to the split pushing build. You can have the Blade of the Ruin King if you would like, something that we've seen from the occasional Renekton when their goal is to win the 1v1. Always a possibility here for young generation, but they've got the Syndra. If Syndra ever starts snowballing, we've seen it from even Seiya earlier in the week. You can have a monster performance.
Yes, you can indeed. Now, young generation KLG going up against each other here in this clash. On the other side of the groups, we'll see who comes out on top of it. Young generation, they have a lot of early game pressure, but remember, there is a player on the opposite side of the board whose entire strategy is getting his team ahead in the early game, and that is Tierwolf, and we'll see if he's able to match the pressure of Venus.
It certainly is. Tierwolf likes to throw himself at lanes more than he does jungle. 51% jungle proximity for him specifically. And
more than half his time.
Yeah, that's proximity to laners, or allies, I should say specifically. He doesn't necessarily like Mantaraya as a lane to gank. He does like his bottom lane, and that's where we look at, just with these two teams on Summoner's Rift in general, how they got here was by camping for Big Koro, camping for Fix, get them rolling, get them ahead, and watch as they do the rest of the work for you, just by being that tank.
Well, the Battle of Flares has already begun. And there's a dance party down in the river.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's how you start your Worlds experience, right? I mean, it's a big deal for both these teams. Young generation, this is their first international tournament at all. I mean, they've only competed in the GPL and, of course, the local Vietnam League.
Well, they live in the shadow of the Gigabyte Marines. That's something that is very hard to break out of. They even lost to the Gigabyte Marines. They're 1-6 against them in the regular season, but they're here now. They've been gifted the opportunity by the team that bests them often, and so they can only be grateful for this opportunity and this chance to show that it's not just the Gigabyte Marines that are a strong team in the Vietnamese region. It is, in fact, 2 of them, maybe 3 of them. Maybe the whole region's great, and we just haven't seen them yet.
Yeah, well, and it's not just Vietnam in the GPL as well. It encompasses a number of other countries in the area, and that is why it's such an impressive feat to see not 1 but 2 teams out of Vietnam.
Yeah, he didn't run the Vietnamese gauntlet by themselves. The VCS wasn't the only thing that they had to win here, young generation. It was also the GPL tournament. So they get themselves where it matters most, and now they have to go up against the Kaos Latin Gamers side.
Yep. We'll see how KLG can do in this early game as well. So Venus kind of a little bit back and forth on the early start, goes for the Raptors, gets the hard leash, and he gets his red buff quick on to level 2. Tierwolf, of course, he's on it as well, but that's a little bit after he'd already started on the chickens of himself. And we'll see if they end up moving towards the top after it, as they both move towards that side of the jungle.
Yeah, ultimately just clearing on the opposite sides of the rift right now, though. Tierwolf is going to be significantly further behind, compliments of that super leash that Venus just received from Big Koro and Pallet. So he has the opportunity to level 3, he can go towards top lane, and he has the momentum through exactly that. But Tierwolf, he's got his red buff and he wants to secure that Scuttle Crab, and it looks like he's got those XP points.
Important to get the vision out early on, but Venus, he just wants to start fighting already, throws down the barrel. A couple more auto attacks. Tierwolf, he might have to burn his flash. Arctic Assault, he's not going to have it. Ren was even coming in there, and a blast cone taken. The young generation, they want to get this one started with a lot of action.
Very greedy from Tierwolf to go towards that scuttle. Not knowing perhaps where the enemy jungler started, he tries to get his eye in, but Venus, with the super leash, already level 3 to that of the level 2 the Sejuani was running around with. So they get the flash, but not only that, he's going towards where the Renekton is winning his top lane in the 1v1, has the control, has the pressure. A bit of disrespect perhaps, or just trying to sneak it before they could get there.
Might be able to do it. Now Mantaraya coming in here, knows that something's up, sees the Krugs being started. Venus with the double buffs, gonna get the smite down on one of those Krugs.
Okay, Mantaraya's got like 3 seconds to exit the arena.
Yeah,
right
he needs to leave right now. This is gonna be a little tough for the level 3 Cho'Gath. Tries to steal back a few more Krugs, but it's nothing doing, and there's no jungle backup coming.
No, there's not. However, he knows exactly where the Gragas is. He knows that Sejuani's got free time. Not only is it just the Sejuani that gets free time, you're looking at it right now. Fix and Slow have got all the time in the world to be a Tristana and a Lulu and harass and pressure. So Mantaraya doesn't do the wrong thing by any means. He's actually still at full health and okay. He wasn't going to be able to farm that lane 1v1 too successfully either way.
Yeah, his job's not going to be to win that lane. Cho'Gath will become pretty relevant as it goes on, and for the time being, this Tristana is a living terror for Big Koro and Pallet down in the bottom side, and you can already see it reflected in the health bars. A whole lot of harassment. The Lulu comes out as well with the Glitter Lands, help picks, and everything. Tierwolf is going towards the bot side as well. So is Venus. We might be in for a 3v3.
But Tierwolf is going to be here first, and he might have just missed each other. I don't know if there was any vision. There was no ping. Oh, no.
They still don't know.
What are you doing
now
here?
Tierwolf does.
There was still a ward there, so it's okay. KLG make the right moves. They're looking. I don't know.
Does not land, wins his bike. Pallet.
This is to give the recall, actually, for Big Koro and Pallet. They're losing lane so hard. Venus just wants to assist them. Tearwolf was nearby, so I commend this, actually, from the side of Young Generation to allow them to recall.
It's funny you don't get to see the junglers getting that close to each other without actually spotting out, but KLG definitely gunning for the first turret. It's already down to half health, and that's what happens when you have a Tristana Lulu.
Yeah, they're
a lot
hard
of damage
pushing.
done.
They're against the Braum Xayah, and Xayah does excel at pushing waves, however, so I mean, it's correct that a Tristana and a Lulu can push and harass successfully, but this is a whole lot of that.
No kidding. At least they have the Unbreakable to be able to stop some of the damage. I suppose if you have the Rakan, it gets even more difficult. You've got shields, not quite as effective.
Yeah, well, Braum's got the door, but at level 1, it's all about those auto attacks. And I think the Lulu and Tristana, between the two of them, have enough damage to compensate and win that. And I feel like a lot of Xayah's strength when it comes to pushing is actually at that level 1 mark. You press W, you throw in all the feathers, you hit level 2, and you actually have all-in threat. So.
Yeah. Well, they knew they were going to have to be in for some survival. Of course, the Doran Shield was the first item of choice for the Xayah, making a lot of sense to get a little extra damage onto those minions. And with the first back fix, picks up his pickaxe.
We have a very different back when we look towards the middle lane, however. Plugo's gone towards the Lost Chapter, where it's the Dark Seal and potions for Naul. He doesn't even have a refillable potion, just straight up buying those red potions. And could be inefficient, may start to pay off. We'll have to see how it pans out, because right now, you'd argue Plugo significantly stronger.
And he has the level 6 comparatively. Naul only just hits it, so the Power Unleashed is available. Venus spotting out the ward, but Plugo's playing pretty safe. I mean, it's hard to gank an Orianna, man.
I feel like if that control ward was just a little bit further right, one teamo to the right in the same bush, to be able to spot that ward, it's not going to be the case. In saying that, it also means that Chaos Latin gamers don't know there's a control ward in that bush.
So for all the early aggression that we've seen out of both teams moving around, we haven't actually gotten first blood here at 6.5, but the laning phase definitely trending a little bit towards the top side, pushing in as the Renekton want to, but down in the bottom, KLG, they should be able to secure this tower if all things stay equal. Of course, they don't always for long. Now we're coming down on a roam.
He's in.
Oh boy. Get the slow on to slow. Scout of the week, not going to connect. 2 flashes burned and the Power Unleashed on top of a heal, and they're going to be able to secure it. Big Koro with the first blood.
Big plays from Pallet to make sure that he's got 3 procs on that passive. The stun from Braum is the only thing that secures the kill at the end, but Plugo, he's looking at his own opportunities, it seems.
All right, Shockwave up, see if he grabs it. No, gets nailed. Oh, flash forward, that's going to pull in too. There's an Unbreakable on and a teleport coming down for Ren. Fix, and Plugo got to bail out, and there is not a whole lot of mana there. Let's see if Ren keeps going forward for the flash. A couple of Coles, and Plugo, he's just trying to walk away, but he's got nothing else he can do. Cole in the meek, it's Ren with the kill.
No culling, no summoner spells there for Plugo. Very nice cleanse from him, but the cleanse only does so much. It forces a flash out of Ren to follow up and secure that kill. But that's the kill they're after now. 2-0 to Young Generation, and what started with none very early has started to explode just that little bit more, and it's on the back of Naul.
Making good plays, the faster roam, and burning so many summoners, that means you can start going down there once again. We thought Venus might be the one to watch, but yeah, the solo laners definitely coming up with some big plays. Now Ren back up to the top side, has some relief as he lost out on a little bit of farm making that play, but the kill is more than going to make up for that. Fix and slow, though, they're not deterred at all away from this turret. They just don't have a whole lot of minions to keep pushing with it.
And so they shouldn't be, though. The vision has still been theirs throughout all of that. Even the invade and the gank, rather, that happened in the bottom lane, Null walked over a control ward. They weren't controlling vision. They just walked down and made the play. And it was successful, granted. Maybe should not have been because the vision was there. Slow was very aptly named for how he was trying to escape that gank. Of course, we get to watch this again. Syndra comes in. Slow, he gets hit. And so the fact that he's tagged out, autoed once again, that's where he dies. The 2 auto attacks weaved, however, from Null. And the Storm Raiders surge, giving that bit of extra move speed for the last auto attack is what secures it in the end. So maybe the Thunderlords, maybe not this time.
Well, there's always next time for sure. Now, it's good that Big Koro gets the kill at the end of the day too, because he's been pushed back under tower. You can see it in the farm differential, 73 to 48. Now he's got the kill. It allows him to get his boots too a little bit quicker than he might have been able to prior to this. So, you know, he may not have the damage, but he's certainly going to be mobile enough. And we talk about Tristana being one of those late game hyper carries. Big Koro is going to be one as well on this Xayah.
And it's always nice to force out the pickaxe purchase from a Tristana opposed to a BF sword. So the fact that he's gone for his Berserker Greaves, he's got the 2 long swords and that first blood that you mentioned, means that he's pretty well equipped for this exact point in the game where he maybe should not have been. The turret is still the concern, though, that lingering problem that Young Generation have got to face against right now. It could fall down at a moment's notice from just the 2v2. It is the first turret in the game, and so all it takes is a wandering Tearwolf to show up in the bottom lane.
Well, Tearwolf is often wandering, but mostly with the purpose. On the Sejuani, we haven't seen quite as much effectiveness as we has out of Venus. In the very beginning, of course, he kind of got battered and bruised just a little bit trying to contest on the Scuttle Crab early on, and instead he's been focusing on just farming things up, working his way towards a little bit more tankiness as Venus moves up towards the blue to give it away to Naul. It seems like this is going to be the strategy. Once they start grouping up to try and make these big plays, the towers get knocked down, and we know Young Generation like to group up as 5 and just force all over the map.
We also know that KLG are not going to hesitate or be afraid of any kind of fights in the 5v5 sense specifically. So there's always going to be a world where KLG say, we'll match you, and we'll just see who comes out better.
Yeah, and as the game goes a little slower maybe than YG might have liked, this is great for Chaos Latin gamers. They do like to play it a little bit more deliberately. The late game, the team fighting, that's what they enjoy. Even if some of their games don't always go quite so long, then we'll see if we have another engage down bottom. Naul. Ooh, Arctic Assault away as the vision was there. Now Fix not taking any chances.
You better believe that control ward is defended from the Syndra, and Gragas is farming that middle lane. I feel like we've swapped roles at the moment. There's a different jungler in town. And he's still keeping up in farm in the middle lane as well. And it all just indicates, once again, he's got control of that wave, had the blue buff, is able to push, and then he's able to disappear. So nicely done from this mid laner of Young Generation.
Yeah. Well, that's the reason Naul's pretty touted as one of the team's top players. Always a wandering threat as well. We talked about Tearwolf, but of course on the other side, YG, they have a lot of damage in their pocket. We'll see if Plugo can maybe keep pushing him back, but it used to be a level advantage the other way. Plugo had level 6 first, but now Naul's on 9. Of course, that's what's going to happen when you participate in a few more of those kills.
Yeah, of course, we have to say that the Orianna's getting close to that level 9 of his own that he just ticks over to, and now that does mean that a bit more presence in lane is something that is being asserted by Plugo in particular. The reason that is important is, of course, the Q cooldown, the fact that you can spam the ball around, and as long as you dodge the stun, you'll tend to win most of those trades unless Syndra all in. So things start to shift in the middle lane. However, it looks like Pallet wants to say something about that as Plugo's hovering bottom.
Oh, doesn't get knocked by the Scout of the Week, but Pallet has swapped right on in, and Naul tries to go unleashing the power, and the barrel comes out to secure it up. Venus takes the kill, and you better believe that is an insta-cancel on the TP from Mantarraya.
He didn't just take the kill, he ensured that he was getting the kill. That was a flash ultimate from Venus on like 10 health from Plugo. His flash was just on cooldown. There's the smallest of little lines that you could see on his flash timer. It's up right now. That's the difference between perhaps him getting out alive or not, or using more summoners from the side of Young Generation. Palace just at the correct place. Once again, in vision. You have to add that.
Yeah, and they knew they weren't going to be able to save the tower down on the bottom, so of course it does go over, but that's 3 kills to 0 in favor of YG. Now insta-cleanse as he gets the knockback, denying the kill onto Tearwolf. Ren and Mantarraya still dueling up in the top, but now this Cho'Gath, he's able to do a little bit more. He gets an eat on, but Ren's not down just yet. Oh boy, he's going in. Can he get the knock up? Tries for it, no! Running away from that scream, and Ren makes his escape.
Barely lives as the Redacted in that 1v1. That was a righteous glory. I did not expect to see that early. We get to watch this as well. The gank onto Plugo. Notice the control ward that Pallet is standing on. Plugo no flash though. Once the shockwave hits, and then Venus really wanted that kill so badly. But we have to mention that cleanse from Naul. That was as Captain Jack as you like.
Oh yeah.
So clean.
There was almost no time between actually getting hit. You know he was ready from it a mile away, and pretty incredible. Didn't give up a death on that one. Now it is Infernal Drake, Tearwolf, Fix, and Slow are all working at. Venus realizes he can't really get in there. Has to concede this one up. So KLG have been going for the neutral objectives this game so far. It's Young Generation that have the kills, and that's only making up a 500 gold difference.
We've seen an awful lot of Infernal Drakes in this tournament thus far, and no exceptions as they do get that Drake. They've got that turret, so yes, the objectives are there, but with all the kills and those etchings forwards of a snowball from Young Generation, there is a world where things such as this start to happen, and then the gold lead that they still have, even with the turret disadvantage, grows.
Seems like both teams playing towards the win conditions that they set out for themselves in the pick and ban phase. But now Mantarraya, the tables are turning once again. He's trying to chase down Ren. There's a stop up for just a second. Grasp the Undying, a little extra health back, and he just keeps on sending those spikes into the croc. There's no help coming for him here. He's got no flash this time around. Mantarraya, there's the righteous glory. He's almost under tower, flashing forward. My goodness, he hasn't been able to get the rupture just yet, but Mantarraya, how far does he want to go? And he goes a numbing.
That's not even a level 11 Cho'Gath. This guy is unrelenting. Just let the man walk away.
Never gonna happen. He's making up for lost time in that top lane, being pushed in.
Missing like 10 minions to ensure he gets the kill. I like this guy already. He's got his priorities in place. He wants those kills. This is the price you pay for taking my turret.
It is going to be a little rough from here on out for Ren right now. He might want to go to a different lane. That's the advice I think I'd give him. Still, the gold lead's in favor of Young Generation, but they've finally given up the Ghost on 1 kill. Check back in on the mid lane. Now, I'm sure he'd be pretty happy with a kill of his own, but in the meantime, he's still a pretty heavy damage threat. It's just that Plugo not really biting on the Dark Spheres and Scatter of the Weeks, dodging it out pretty well.
He has been dodging nicely, of course. Has those Merc Treads as the rushed magic resistance item for the move speed, the magic resistance, and he's pretty well set up as well with that cleanse that's almost back off cooldown. Now, you said that Ren may want a different lane. Well, it's not him that's going to choose that lane. It's KLG as they send Fix and Slow towards the top lane. They're looking to accelerate the pace of the game right now. They've got that Lulu almost at Ardent Sensor, but they've also got the Infinity Edge for Fix, and they can take apart turrets.
It is definitely going to be a wrecking crew up towards the top now. Plugo going to go ahead and secure himself up the blue buff. KLG wanting to be able to hold up. Oh, that's unfortunate. Can't get them all.
That's very tragic, because guess what? Syndra walking around with a blue buff. That means she wins lane. For those of you that don't mid lane, yes, it means she wins lane.
Definitely the difference. Oh, pulls in one on the shockwave. Pallet's there. Tag his way in. Now, Tierwolf, he wants to go forward, throws down the Glacial Prison. Let's see if they can get the kill. Mantarraya out of nowhere, tanking off the tower. And there's a lot more Glacial fissures going on up there. Now, Big Koro, he's got a flash on forward for the root. Can he make the play? Forces the flash into the wild growth and Fix. I don't think he expected the turnaround there.
I don't think anyone expected that. There's a Sejuani to Cho'Gath moving, but now all's up creek. He wants to make the play. Here they go.
Pallet. Oh, Big Koro playing a dangerous game. Pallet on the front line, looking to get the stun off onto Fix. Rocket jumps away. Stun is out of range. And now we're into fights, baby. Now we'll try to get the deletion. He goes down, but he does take Fix with him. It's a 1-for-1 trade up top.
Yeah, Nowell absolutely outplays him by pressing that R button and secures the kill. Fix is going to die in the end. It is a 1-for-1. You can see so much emphasis, though, from KLG in their rotations around the Rift as a team, doing everything in that 5v5, trying to prevent the individual members of Young Generation from continuing to be pesky and just making those plays.
Continuing to be pesky is, I think, a pretty apt way to put it there, Rusty. 17 minutes in, the dust is going to clear for a little while. It's still a slim lead for Young Generation, but now we're matched on those towers, and there's a lot of damage on the one up top. Let's take a look at that play one more time, a little extended engage.
Of course, this is the exciting part. Fix jumps forwards. He gets the reset with his last auto attack, I believe, as well. Big Koro dodges the ultimate, which is on cooldown now because of the ultimate use of his own. So the smaller details in the end almost added up for the side of YG. And then we get to watch the biggest outplay in the history of League of Legends from now as he looks towards making a play with Pallet. You can see, though, Sejuani and Cho'Gath are already working their way up to this area, so they've committed to the play, full well knowing that this might be suicide. And you take Tristana's biggest mistake was stepping forwards to get destroyed.
Yeah, that sometimes is a failing of a lot of AD carries. Sometimes you think you just get one more auto and get a kill, and then you get a face full of unleashed power.
Yeah, sometimes you just think one auto attack's all it takes. I'll just come and steal the kill. I'm the AD carry after all. I mean, the end result of this is still a win for KLG. Just hurts them that they give Syndra anything.
Yeah. At the same time, though, Ren has had some pretty free time on this bottom tower, and even Mantarraya knows he can't push him back off it. Might be able to kill him, but it's not going to stop. So trades all over the map, and now this is giving KLG the opportunity to try and pick up the Rift Herald. Probably look to knock down that mid lane turret after all said and done, but it seems like the team's matching pressure pretty well across the map.
Yeah, Ren has been trading nicely whenever the bottom lane of Chaos Latin gamers take those structures. They've got the pressure of the jungler nearby, and Cho'Gath disappears, doesn't have his teleport, so they're trying to exploit that exact fact. Ren has got his teleport up and ready right now. They could look towards making a play themselves if they so choose. But for what objective is always going to be the answer.
Yeah, it gets harder and harder once you start knocking those towers down and the map gets open, and have to go a little deeper to try and make anything happen on the map. And
good recall timing, though, from Nowell. There's a Drake up in 20 seconds if they want to make that play. You look at lane assignments, firstly, for if the Drake is something they want to go towards. Well, Renekton's back top lane, so the answer for me is just yes, they want to do the Drake.
Yeah, and they have a teleport advantage as well, so Mantarraya, he has to stick towards the bottom or the mid if he wants to be able to help them contest it. KLG, 5 members strong, while Mantarraya is going up top, so make that 4. they're not going to give this one up idly either. That's a very important
No,
dragon.
Cho'Gath is walking down. They absolutely are looking towards fighting for this Drake. It's not an Infernal. It's not going to be the second, but a Mountain Drake means a much easier Baron secure. And so this is the direction they're starting to take this game. KLG, as of like 5 minutes ago, said, I'm pretty sure we should just 5v5 them.
Yep. Young Generation more than happy to take.
But there's the teleport
starting. KLG see this one happening. There's a Glacial Fissure going to land on too, and they knock him back with the barrel. Unleash the power onto Slow. Oh, they get the stop off onto Ren for the time being, and they cut their losses.
Yeah, unfortunately for Young Generation, Ren's slice was straight into trees, and you can't slice trees with swords, he's just found out. Gets blocked by the terrain, is not going to make it over the wall, but they get the pick onto Slow. No one's there anymore with a shockwave down to protect that Tristana. And so they take the safe option. They don't run back into the river willingly. They just seed themselves the Drake.
Yeah. A lot of less seasoned teams would just continue to take that one on. And we talked about how KLG, they look to the leadership of mid laner Plugo, make those calls, roam as 5. Sometimes it seems simple, but honestly, there's a lot of nuance to it to know when to keep going and when to back off.
Yeah, knowing when to back away is always going to be a big deal in League of Legends. Most people do not seem to know that. And so unfortunately, it usually results in their death. So good call from these guys. But at the same time, we have to compliment Young Generation for their collapse. They do this separately. You've got Nowell and Pallet by themselves. The teleport comes in, and Venus and Big Coral on the other side of the river, yet they force them into the choke point. They force KLG into that small area so they can still get the collapse. Braum hits the Q on a jumping Tristana, of all things, as well, to try and make that a little bit better. So Slow is the sacrifice.
Yeah, it means 5-2 is, of course, the kill score at 21 minutes into this game. And, you know, Dragons on either side, but Young Generation, they're the ones that are going to be able to shred towers and that all-important Baron. Once again, if they can get that one, start securing it, pushing down as 5. We talked about them being a little bit more of an earlier game team, but they've still got power in the later stages. Big Koro is going to keep ramping up.
Yes.
He's only on his Essence Reaver plus Azeel right now, so he's only going to get stronger as the game goes on.
And this is that point in the game where Baron is the only real objective still left up for them besides inner towers. And they're much harder to achieve, obviously. But if you get any of them down, Baron's then easier to take. And that's the back and forth that we're going to be seeing from the LMS side. However, when you contrast that to Chaos Latin Gamers, they've got the Rift Herald ready to crush the Eye of. They've got the mid lane outer turret as something they can still take. And so if they find an opportunity where, you know, YG are just baiting the Baron, they're not doing the Baron, they can destroy structures and catch themselves up a bit more.
Yeah, might need to do it. You can see them being pushed back just a little bit. Tierwolf is going to crush that Eye.
I think it might have been out of cooldown, which is why he's used it where he has.
Got to throw it. Maybe they decide to push themselves as far as they can. Remember, it's a teleport advantage for Mantaraya now. So Ren would have to be walking up, and they look for Pallet as Tierwolf moves on forward. Nowell's there.
They're trying to do as much as they can to the Herald before it bashes its head against the structure.
Oh, it's going. Not going to be able to get more than 1 or 2 extra hits, even smiting it down before the end. And Ren is actually not needed for all that to stop things off. So KLG unfortunately can't get a whole lot of value out of the Rift Herald. And
still very good patience from KOG. They'll take the chip damage. They obviously did not want more than just that. Maybe if a pick happens, it's going to be the structure. But they want to play this one out slowly. They want to take the one big opportunity.
Yeah. He's going to have time to roll forward. The Tristana keeps getting bigger. And speaking of big, look at Mantaraya right now. He's got his Warmogs all finished, and they want to start diving onto the mid, looking for Beast. Now, it's a 3-man stun. The tower is going to get knocked down. Unfortunately, no deletion possible there.
Yeah.
But Big Koro's up top.
Exactly. Big Koro's split pushing. He really likes turrets, it seems, and loses half of his health to it, whilst the rest of the team runs up towards him. So he's not going to be able to do damage for free. I don't even think he'd be able to 1v1 fix unless he gets a bit more health back into his health bar. But yes, they had to seed mid lane. They had to sacrifice that turret. Most of it comes down to Mantaraya being in the right place at the right time.
He often is, though. That is one of the hallmarks of that player. And Plugo, whoa! He was in the wrong place, but he didn't take too much damage. Not as many Dark Spheres on the ground. Now, we'll even spend both of his summoners.
They both
see the CC that hit him.
4 summoners burnt through the mid laners means with tank junglers running around and people that can catch you out of position, well, now they're going to be susceptible to exactly that.
Scary time to be a carry for sure, but Young Generation up on the top side, going to throw out the party barrel, looking for Fix and Slow. Can't land any further CC on him, and without a whole lot of minions, they're out of options up top side, but you can see that's not going to stop them from coming back for more soon.
I think that was adventurous from Venus in the way that he was using his cask in this situation, maybe looking for a pick. Oh, didn't stop him. Just barely. They know he's recalled, however. I feel like without that cask, though, they'll take the damage, YG. They'll take the chip onto the turret. They're happy campers nonetheless.
Cooldown's low enough for them not to have to worry about it. And now you can see that KLG, the long work has begun to start clearing the jungle of all those wards that YG have thrown down. And Baron's actually been procced as Tearwolf was trying to clear out vision inside the Baron pit. Pallet, a little bit of a cheeky maneuver by him, and it means Tearwolf's got to bail out.
Now, Tearwolf does have Warmogs. You can see that health come straight back immediately. And it's not just Tearwolf, it's Mantaraya that also has the Warmogs of his own. Second item, you have to point out. So a lot of health regeneration, not a whole lot of resistances.
That is the difference. They can fight a couple of times, but if they get bursted, that's always going to be a little troublesome. KLG, they really do like their tanky compositions too, and
yeah,
it's nice to see them coming up with a few extra carries. When they were qualifying up against Isurus Gaming back in CLS, we saw them really only play with one major carry, and that was fixed. This change of pace in the pick and ban is definitely welcome.
It's always going to be welcome the more carries that they can have, because we often question how much damage that composition that they were running through their finals was going to have.
Yep. And for the Cho'Gath too, at least they picked a tank that's going to do damage as well over the course of the game.
They've got a control mage in the mid lane, one major primary carry that will scale super well, and then the Cho'Gath that can deny enemy carries. So damage maybe not a factor. Plugo.
Oh no, we've seen this one a few times, and Plugo unleashed the power on him, and they even scatter the weak. The shield keeping him alive, and they got a wild growth on. Now it's KLG's time to tag in. They pull back now, and Fix has got one, looking for the reset. He even dodges out the glacial fissure. That's the double looking for Pallet. Unbreakable, how long will it be? And Fix is backed off for the time being, but KLG, they find 2 kills, including the jungler. You better believe it's Baron time.
And Syndra's gone for a Banshee's Veil, so not enough damage to take apart Plugo. 2 MMR items of his own, and suddenly the tanky team of KLG, they're straight on the Baron. But one young generation, they're aware of it.
They're not done just yet, but Mantaraya turns his attention right on over. How much can YG do? Even Ren, he's in the back line. He can't make it happen. Enough Baron. Not quite resetting means KLG are right back on top of it. YG trying to be annoying to push them back. Let's see if this young generation can make it happen.
Looks
but they've
like
got no spike contest. I think it's going to happen. Teleports on. And it even gets nommed by Mantaraya. That means Ren's going to cancel his TP.
Yeah, they have to cancel that teleport. Baron's secured, cleanly secured above all else. And it's at the fault of a young generation that this happens at all. They want Plugo. Yes, he is out of position. They've got no summoner spells on the Orianna. This is a good opportunity, they say, and they knock him in. 1 Q misses. He has the barrier up, the shield up rather, at the correct time, and Lulu comes in, but also dodging spells. So all of this time, reinforcements suddenly arrive, and the rest of the team fight is very clean and easy for them to secure. But all of this happens because one team wants to start it, they don't have enough damage to finish it, maybe a little bit of a misexecution.
Yeah, and as Chaos Latin gamers were pushed back a number of times, all of a sudden the map is wide open to them. They've got Baron buff, and they're just going to march down as 4 into the mid. Big Koro, I don't know how much he's going to be able to clear. Pallet's here as well to block a few more auto attacks. Still, they've got the empowered cannon creep, and the rest of the minions are conga lining their way in. Mantaraya blocking Ren from making a push down on the bottom side. And now KLG, it looks like it's time for them to start taking this lead, extending that gold up. It's only about 2,000. That's still going to mean a lot for a scaling composition.
Yeah, certainly true. Now, when you've got a Xayah on your team composition, normally you'd be like, yes, I love when they walk towards me. That is where I can get all my feathers laid down, have those big plays when I pull all the feathers back. But against an Orianna, that's not actually that easy. That's just not that simple when it comes to auto-attacking. Tristana's range excels as well right now. The situation where Syndra is barely able to even keep up with that. So ultimately, when they've got the Baron, when they've got the momentum, they've got 2 shields protecting Fix. You believe there's no minions right there, but he doesn't seem to care. That's how strong they are.
Yeah, this is definitely looking like trouble for young generation as they are getting pushed ever further back into their own territory. Finally, the tower is going to fall, and a whole wave of reinforcement minions have arrived. Meanwhile, Ren is still trying to do work here, but he's being blocked off by Mantaraya. KLG, they might just start being able to knock into this base. Let's see if YG can push him back. Still some chip damage on this turret.
Meanwhile, Ren has been blasting the bottom lane as well. He's got the minions pushing in, which is why a lot of this isn't able to happen in the first place. Renekton hasn't recalled. They know very much that this is a 4v4, and so they start to push up. They start to pressure, and they poke around as much as they can, but Plugo no blue buff means that we're starting to see this run its course and almost reach the end of that. If Fix can get the turret, that's great, but it has to be soon.
I don't know if they fancy a fight right now. Pallet doing some serious work, but he's going to get pulled in. They get a cast back to knock out Plugo. He's almost out of mana. Not a whole lot he can do, but the rest of the team's going to attack their way in, looking for an owl. He's even able to make his escape flashing, as well as the cleanse. And without any more minions, it looks like young generation have managed to defend. All of a sudden, the 4v4 becomes a 5v5. Mantaraya slowly trying to walk away. The Baron only 40 seconds remaining, and I think that's going to be all they're going to get out of it.
At the end of that, nobody dies, so we get to reset one more time. They got some turrets, they got a lot of extra gold, KLG, so they'll be happy for that, but they didn't break the base, so this game is still anybody's.
It's funny how you say it, with not a whole lot of kills going on. You look at these two teams and the way they qualified, you could maybe forgive KLG for not being quite as heavy on the action because they're controlling the pace of this game. But Young Generation, they're a team that definitely likes to win through skirmishes, win through getting a lot of kills, and have they just been stymied this game is the question I want to put to you.
I wouldn't say they've been stymied at all. They've got a jungler that had control very early on in the game. By pushing out the scuttle, looks towards the camps that he's after. For me, the place that was slowed down, that was controlled, was the 2v2 in the bottom lane. The Tristana and the Lulu, in particular, had outright control. It required a lot of jungle attention. And I feel like that's where ultimately things started to shift towards the KLG side. But even then, Young Generation had good roams. They had the way into this game. They had opportunities to make the big plays. So it supersedes exactly that factor. I just feel like perhaps everyone underestimated KLG.
Very possible. It's definitely a team that I think it's easy to overlook sometimes. Looking at the LATAM regions especially, a lot of people get a lot of hype for Lion Gaming and LATAM North, and when you see them face off against each other oftentimes in international tournaments, usually that's where a lot of the glory goes. But for KLG, I mean, this is a team that they've kind of been built up once again from scratch, but it's a name, it's a brand that a lot of people will recognize when they do play through qualifiers and on big international stages. They're one of a few teams that tends to take that spot, so you better believe they definitely know what they're doing, and especially with the veteran leadership of Plugo.
Yeah, absolutely. Plugo should be the center of the team. Looks like they've put out Pallet. Don't imagine that will result in anything else, so he just gets bodied around for placing vision. But yeah, perhaps that vision, the leadership rather of Plugo is something that can make the difference. Yet, when you look at YG, confident side, wouldn't have expectations on saying that that leadership means a lot themselves. They should just have plenty, but it's a young roster. First time they've gone to Worlds. And this is the thing. This is game number 1 for these guys. Days 1 and 2 of Worlds play-in stage was Groups A and B. This is the first time we're seeing Group C. This is the first game of Group C. You'd have to expect that there are some nerves, or at least caution, to be seen.
Yeah. Not necessarily throwing everything you've got in every situation. And we've seen KLG also take a little bit of a conservative approach when they haven't needed to. We saw them back off on the Dragon when they lost slow early on. And again, it's not something you always see from the teams of the emerging regions. Sometimes they won't always recognize a bad situation when it comes about, but you know, this is a different breed of team for sure.
It's very hard to see a point now where Young Generation can outright come back into this game, to be frank with you, simply because the front line has 3 items. For Chaos Latin Gamers, their backline has 3.5, including a Hex Drinker, and that means that Syndra is not going to one-hit him anymore. You've got a very much unkillable mid laner in Plugo. You've seen that through all the items that he has already. Banshee's Merc Treads, the shields, and now they've caught Red.
Yep, and there's not a whole lot the Croc can do. Tyrwolf is going to cut him off, and Fix is going to grab himself the 3rd kill of the game. Looks like they're going to pull in Nowell back in the mid. Even Plugo is out playing in the 1v1. Up against that Syndra. So things are definitely looking not so great for Young Generation.
And that's the other lane we have to look at. Ren has had little impact in this game, to say the least. He controlled his top lane for the first 5 levels, then Mantaraya was beating him in the 1v1. Renekton pretty much been an invisible crocodile.
We saw this also out of Young Generation's play qualifying for Worlds. They had to reverse sweep their way here, remember. They had a couple games on Ren, wasn't able to pick one up, and that's when they subbed in Nocti. We might start to see that happen again when we see the games, and now the fight is on. Looking for Nowell! Not a lot he can do to get away from this massive Cho'Gath. Redemption comes in, but that's just tickling them with damage. And it's going to be a broken inhibitor down in the top side. Chaos Latin Gamers come in, and they just knock YG back.
They're also teleporting though. Renekton has decided that they really want this fight. Ren is going to get in the back line, but they know he's there. He just walked over the dead Scuttle Crab. This is adventurous. He is by himself.
This is desperation right now. Ren, if he's going to go all in, no, Mantaraya blocking the rest of the team. That teleport, is that going to be for nothing? They still want to try and chase this Chaos Latin Gamers squad, but can they even find an angle? They're so far behind.
Well, now they're committed. They kind of have to team fight 5v5. The teleport was used, and Baron's on the board.
Oh, but the hunters become the hunted. Here we go. Tyrwolf on. looking for Venus, gets the slow, gets the stun, and all of a sudden the rest of KLG come knocking. The barrel comes out, but it's a party for Chaos Latin Gamers. Shut down though, Big Goro grabs one.
Got a flag.
Now Naul, he's going to be able to get around the side, scattering the weak. YG getting a little bit low as Mantarraya, Tearwolf turning. Blugo, Mantarraya gets another eat off onto the support from Young Generation. Ren in the back line, but it's going to be Blugo flashing away, and Mantarraya is doing double time with a double kill, looking for a third. Can he make it happen? It's Naul and Big Goro going down. That's the last man standing on Young Generation as Mantarraya is still going for the chase.
He's looking for a righteous glory. He's just off cooldown now, so he can walk up to him and blast him. For a big team fight victory once again from Chaos Latin Gamers, and that's a fight that Young Generation looked like they wanted to start. This is a lot of vision. They know. It doesn't seem like they care.
Why is Naul still here? Scatter the weak back. Okay, he's gonna walk away. Mantarraya is just terrifying at this point.
It's a nightmare of a Cho'Gath to be up against, except his battle cast. We get to see the replay again, of course. Venus, he was the member that gets sacrificed very early on into the play. Fix jumps forwards to ensure that. And when you're like, all right, it's good, he's got a reset. It's not good, he doesn't have a reset. He's cast into a wall, flashed on by Ren, and they immediately destroy him. And now they're doing Baron.
Pretty easy to see them taking this one without anybody in the area from Young Generation, and with how far behind they are, would have been very difficult all the same. So Chaos Latin Gamers knock down the big purple worm, and 35 minutes into the game, looks like we are reaching for the end of this one, Rusty. It's a 5,000 gold advantage.
Certainly feels that way, of course. Now you look towards just finishing the game off. If you are KLG, you've got that one fight left for Young Generation. They've got a 3-1 carry. They do still have 4 completed items for their Syndra. Capabilities to win a team fight, you would argue, are there if it's a 4v4. But Cho'Gath's just grouping. He has the teleport. They've got the teleport advantage. And now you just look towards which lanes they want to attack. There's only 2 left.
Great way to beat your opponent. Don't present a weakness for them to exploit. Chaos Latin Gamers demonstrating that as they look to close this one out, and it's going to be oh so hard for YG to hold on to their base. They've even needed to send Venus up to try and push back the wave on the top side with the supers going in. Now it is the bottom. The last tower outside the base remaining. Tearwolf even looking for a pick onto Big Coral. Goes for a Blade Storm. Feather Storm, I should say.
Forces the ultimate out, though. I'd say that's a pretty worthwhile trade if you're the Sejuani, not if you're the Xayah. Because now the carries, the Shockwave, it can all connect onto that Xayah. He can die very easily. A lot less outplay to be seen. And the siege has begun. Top lane, minions are starting to mount, starting to push. There'll be a super wave that starts to crash. So in a minute from now, maybe, that's when it breaks open.
Keep an eye on Plugo's positioning. He steps a little far forward every now and again, but just ever out of range of the CC from Young Generation. And here with the minions coming in for round 2. Tearwolf, Mantarraya taking everything up. They get a Rupture landed onto Pallet, and that tower is cut through like a hot knife through butter. That is what a late game Tristana will do for you, and now it is open inhibitor season for Chaos Latin Gamers. They've already got one in the top. They've got a whole lot of minions, and now Ren realizes he has to join this team for what may be the last-ditch desperate fight, but they can't quite do anything as KLG turn back around with the minions up top. Easy to take the inhibitor, and now it's going to be a tour around the base of Young Generation if you're Chaos Latin Gamers.
Yeah, they're just going to walk through the mid lane. They're going to say, we're coming for you next. In fact, they don't even want minions. They're just going to tank it up with Orianna and Lulu's shields. And too busy clearing the base that is in shambles is Young Generation to defend that turret. But still a desperate fight is the only thing they've got left.
Desperate is definitely the key word there. They're dumping everything they can into Mantarraya, and it's barely tickling him. Still, this KLG squad playing together, playing tight. No minions to speak of in the mid, but they've got him in the top, they've got him in the bottom. And as long as they don't present a target, it is hard to see them going down. That last inhibitor's gonna fall, and now they're gonna look to close this one out. Mantarraya on the front line gets a knock up onto Venus Redemption to keep them nice and healthy. The minions will still keep coming, but KLG, they just take the nice and easy route.
Super safe from both of these teams. Yes, they're forcing forwards into the base. They're not overcommitting. Summoner spells are still going to be there. They know the game will end with the Baron buff and with the super minions that come across. Very well timed on the inhibitor above all else, and now they threaten. They bring in 2 waves of minions. One of them has a super. It's just the Nexus left.
Young Generation, one last desperate attempt to try and save this game, but this tower is already starting to fall. That's one gone down. The fight is also going their way. Mantarraya tanking everything up, and he even gets an eat off onto Ren, but Fix has got the final auto attack. Tearwolf tanking through the rest of the Young Generation damage. The final Nexus turret will fall, and soon to be the Nexus. These guys said they wanted to be the next Albix Nox, and this is step 1. GG for Chaos Latin Gamers.
Honestly, just a very well-rounded and strong performance from the team as well. From start to finish, there was only the minor hiccups in the early game, but their vision was good. It was just the miscommunication of where they were going to be. They still got away from the gangs for the most part, and every single move after those mistakes looks like it was cleaned up. They played good League of Legends towards the end as well. No mistakes to be made, no opportunities for the Vietnamese side of Young Generation to come back.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Especially at this stage, you don't often see some clean levels of play from emerging regions as well. And not to say that they don't like to do it, it's just that sometimes you pull the trigger a little faster. Chaos Latin Gamers, they're not that style of team. They play a little more reserved, they play a little controlled. And there was never a point past that mid-game that it seemed like YG could really find an angle on them. A few fights that could have maybe gone their way,
I mean,
but not a lot.
You watch the finals from KLG and you see a lot of team fighting and you're like, all right, these guys like team fighting. Perhaps it was an Isurus thing after all, because it didn't really feel like that was the case. They played their macro League of Legends, pretty good vision control from them overall also, and they just played it clean. And that was a surprise, honestly, but it's a good surprise to see because it means they can play multiple styles of League of Legends, or they've just specially prepared this one for this tournament.
Perhaps, and of course, you saw even in the pick ban phase that they were really doing their homework on Young Generation. Of course, it goes both ways, but I mean, what a fantastic start for this team. They'll have another chance to prove it against a really tough one. Of course, Fnatic up against later this day. I don't know if they could do it this. We'll see what happens next, but now we're going to hear more about that KLG win, so let's send it over to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Pyra. A strong start coming in for KLG, but I think the first thing we want to talk about is the team compositions that both teams have put up here and kind of the goals that they were coming into this match with.
Yeah, the big thing for Young Generations, you see them taking Syndra, Renekton. Anytime you take those two champions, you're going early game, and they wanted to build a big lead. They have the Gragas, who's still very good at making things happen in the early game. You can have good setup in both those lanes. Cho'Gath is notoriously weak in the early game. There should be a lot of things here for Young Generation to build a big lead and then try and snowball the game.
And we saw that very early on from them. You know, we saw good investment from the fact that they were able to get a good punish down on the bottom side of the map. We saw repeated ganks in the mid lane as well, and they were off to a 5-2 early kill score. So when you look at how the draft plays out and how they started off in the early game, everything's looking pretty positive for the side. And I think that for a team like Young Generations, it's got to be good for your confidence too, especially when you know from a region from the Gigabyte Marines to be able to utilize this early game.
Yeah, maybe a lot of expectations on their shoulders, but let's take a look at that first replay where we look at some of these early kills that came out. I think maybe not, didn't get them in the way we expected to, but still finding kills in a lot of these very close skirmishes.
I find it really impressive that the Syndra was able to roam down fairly early on and just punish the overextended bottom lane. And then the moment KLG tried to get something back, the TP advantage they built up for themselves because of the pressure that Ren was putting up onto his lane counterpart allowed them to get this counterplay, and now you have this bigger disparity between the two mid laners after the return from YG.
Definitely the case. It did feel like after getting some of these kills, there wasn't quite as much focus of team play afterwards. They got the first couple turrets down, but they did a bad job kind of extending that lead. It was actually KLG that was able to grab the first dragon for themselves. Infernal Dragon, exactly what you would have wanted with this comp to try and run away with the game. So some small macro mistakes, and then Ren started losing the matchup to Montoraya, who had a great game overall, got a solo kill, forced him out of lane a couple times, and that's where the game felt like it started going back in KLG's favor.
Yeah, KLG just felt like they were starting to outclass in terms of individual, and it felt like once Young Generation got out of the laning phase, it felt like they weren't quite as proficient at making those plays happen. It felt like a lot of small missteps on the side of Young Generation.
It's one of those things where again, looking at the Gigabyte Marines, these two teams are obviously very different, but one thing we did see was the Gigabyte Marines were very calculated in how they fought. And the slight difference we're seeing here is this team had a lead, and they just tried to put the pressure down without fully respecting the options that their opposition had. And so what we saw around the mid-game was that KLG were very prepared and were looking to try and punish that slight overextension.
Yeah, it was the case, and as we look at that first Baron dropping for KLG, we see how that play starts. We can see very quickly that small missteps or over-aggressive plays, not considering the options that your opponents have, can cost you big time, especially the later and later you move into the game. If you miscalculate on an engage, on a pick, suddenly it can turn against you.
Yep, you see them trying to open up onto Plugo here, but Null was really struggling to find the final damage in a lot of these plays. You see a lot of missed Ws, a lot of missed Es. He also took Storm Raiders instead of Thunderlords, so there were some different questionable builds potentially that came into effect here, and once that initial kill goes bad, the rest of KLG do a good job collapsing. They find that pick off, and just off that single kill, they're able to turn and grab the Baron, which is all they needed to turn their comp online.
Exactly that, and we talked about comps early on. You're looking at an early game focused style from YG, but then on the side of Chaos Latin Gamers, they were all about about that late game team fighting Sejuani, Orianna, Tristana, even a Lulu in there too. If you get a slight advantage over this early game comp, it becomes very difficult to come back.
And one guy we have to highlight is Monterrey. You already mentioned him. He got a solo kill in a matchup where we may not have expected it. The guy coming in clutch on the Cho'Gath. And this has to feel good once again. We said, hey, young generation might feel good in the early game. They might be feeling confident. But KLG coming in swinging and individual players stepping up is a really good look for a team that felt like there was pressure on their shoulders to change some of the perception about their region.
Yeah, and this is how this team actually plays. They're not, like we said, a very explosive early game team. They usually turn online post 15 minutes. And same thing here, Monterrey did a good job of finding those kills later on. Once he started hitting his item power spikes, he was able to get that Righteous Glory, get his tabbies. Suddenly the Renekton can't do anything to him. And then even in the late game, diving turrets, he was very aggressive, far ahead of the rest of his team, trying to find kills. Very bloodthirsty player.
And to be fair, when you're snowballing on a Cho'Gath, I think
That's
kind of what we expect when he's got a stone plate and he can start diving 3 turrets. But it was interesting to me. It felt like YG may need to do some adjusting moving forward in the next games. And I wonder, is this a composition issue where we look at, what do they need to draft around? Or is this simply an execution issue on their side in terms of when they look to what to improve next?
To me, it looked like a lot of small mistakes because very early on into the game, to me, it felt like they were doing good things. They were punishing the right lanes. They were clearly playing around their win conditions. But things like, as you rightly identified, the Storm Raiders versus the Thunderlords, some of their builds like Blade of the Ruin King on a Renekton. If they changed some of these small things, maybe they would have been able to better utilize their early game strengths. But also vision was a big thing for me. If you want to try and make those aggressive moves in the mid, you've got to make sure that you have the knowledge of where the enemy is to guarantee that that play is going to work out in success.
I think also just, like you said, a couple of these things had to go a little bit better. We said Null was missing some skill shots. It's the first game of your tournament. Maybe you're a little nervous. We've seen already, in Group B, Team 1 bounce back very quickly. So this could be the kind of thing where they just have to clean up their play a little bit, figure out exactly how they want to play these situations out, make sure that Renekton isn't getting chased down a long lane, stuff like that.
And interesting, too, because when we look at it, if Fnatic are as dominant as we expect them to be, this very well could be the deciding matchup when it comes to who gets the second seed. So now I think a lot of pressure on young generation to adapt, come into tomorrow or come into their next matchup really much stronger than they looked in this first game.
And I think there's always the potential to do that because when we did see Team 1 on the very first day, everyone was like, yeah, there's no way they're making it out of this group, especially how handily they defeated by Direwolves, and then they went back to comfort picks. They seemed to find their grooves. They recognized what was wrong. So I wouldn't count young generations out just yet. I still want to see a little bit more from them, and I think their game versus Fnatic later today will give us a better indication.
The other thing that they have up their sleeve as well is Nocti can potentially sub in at some point. That's one thing that we didn't talk that much about with one was the fact that they swapped their mid laner out to Marv. He was able to come in, make some important plays. You can see the same thing happen here with young generation. If they feel like it's not working out with Ren, they can go a different game plan. Nocti has a very different play style, plays a lot of Galio, a lot more team focus, so maybe that's something they need.
Maybe, because we did see some small individual mistakes in terms of kind of the difference in mechanical plays. Renekton losing out to the Cho'Gath in the 1v1 was the one that stood out the most. But when we harken back to KLG, I think it wasn't just Monterrey as much as we're praising him. It did feel like the team in the bottom lane when we take out or the early ganks coming in was just outclassing in terms of 2v2 matchup.
Yeah. I was going to say, Fix looked really good. He got caught out once in the team fight, but other than that, he was stomping the bot lane. It gave them a place of pressure to snowball and have something to do in the early game.
All right, well, up next, LJL's Rampage takes on Hong Kong Attitude from the LMS. But before we go, that matchup, Fish is currently standing by for an interview with the victorious top laner.
Thanks, guys. I'm here in Monterrey, top laner from KLG after their victory against YG. That was an impressive performance in the top lane. You took down a Renekton as Cho'Gath, and some people think that should go the complete opposite direction. Tell me how you won that matchup.
Actually, at first, I was a little bit scared because I know that Renekton has a matchup advantage, but I think I made good plays, and with 2 plays, I can solo kill him.
You certainly did, and one of those did lead into a solo kill. It was really impressive, and it was quite back and forth between you and YG for some time, but you definitely had the upper hand. Was the plan to scale up and win in the late game all along, or do you have a different game plan going into that match?
Actually, we have a different matchup style. I think they show us a good performance. Like on mid game, we were like a little bit scared because they were proposing, and we're just farming and scaling up, and then they made a mistake, and we can take the Baron and take them match our favor.
Well, you definitely punished that mistake because you did end up winning that game. Up next, you guys go up against the Season 1 World Champions of Fnatic. How are you guys feeling going into this next match?
I think I feel great. I always wanted to play against a fair seed or actually a good team from LCS. I think Fnatic is better than us, of course, but I think in one game we have like 50% to win the game.
Well, best of luck later on. Congratulations on your win just then. We're going to go to a very quick break, but we'll be back with LJL's Rampage taking on... I've lost my words here. LJL's Rampage will be back with the next game, Hong Kong Attitude. See you then.
Got of the week, not going to connect. 2